Welcome back to the Effort Over Everything podcast. On today's episode, Gabe and I, we dive into the CrossFit Games Open and we talk the business side of fitness. In particular, this idea of cutting deep and cutting once. That was something that Gabe brought up. And my recent experience at Nordstrom's with a gentleman named David and his sales techniques that were just on point. So if you're a gym owner listening, enjoy. If you're an athlete, if you're getting after it in your garage, I hope you enjoy the conversation. If you do, simple ask. Share with a friend, rate it, review it. Check out the other podcasts, the Coffee Khalipas. We're having some guests coming on soon. We're going to have even more great conversations. Make sure to check out the one previously with Don Fall. I thought that was a great conversation about the future of CrossFit. Keep crushing it, keep getting after it, and let's have a great episode. Dude, I had a meeting this morning early, went to Philz, tried a new drink called Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I'm fired up, ready to rock. Not having the best hair day. But aside from that, we're on the mic. Computer wasn't working. All good. All good. Do the Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Let me just pause for a second here. So Philz Coffee is a local coffee shop, but they've grown a lot. And we've talked about them before. I love Philz, but they have a ton of different secret menu items. And this one was hazelnut or something like that with another regular coffee blended together with cinnamon in the filter and cinnamon on top. And then they topped it off by putting a little drizzle of honey. Dude, I got honey and caffeine. I'm ready to fucking run through a wall. I walk into the gym. It's like DJ was pumping and here we are. So good morning.
Dude, I'm worried about how much trouble and audio, how much computer and audio trouble you run into on a weekly basis here.
Dude, so my new thing, okay. So my audio, I think I actually got down. But now my new thing is my computer, I'm on like this big MacBook, like a big one. And dude, unless I unplug it and plug it back in again, it won't turn on. It won't like just stay on anymore. I'm sure someone listening who's really a lot smarter than me could probably figure out what the problem is. But basically all I do is every time I come to the gym in the morning, it's already turned off. I have to unplug it, let it sit for like 10 seconds, re-plug it in, and then it works. So anyways.
Oh boy. All right. Well, aside from the audio issues, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and your computer issues, where do you want to kick this off? I know this comes out a week later, but so we record these on Thursday, they come out on Thursday, and this Thursday when we're recording is the first week of the CrossFit Open. Obviously that means that when this comes out, we'll be a week in, we'll know what the first workout was. We won't know what the second workout is. I think that's a good place to start, man. You know, like we've kind of come full circle. I know you're doing the Open this year. We're making it, a really cool event at NCFIT. We have Friday night lights. We have the coaches filming some content every Thursday that'll be on social on Friday. Yeah, man, just give me your hot take. What do you expect? What are you excited for?
Yeah. So definitely before we're done talking, want to talk about Ava's Kitchens this weekend also. So it's a big weekend. And we've been talking about that a little bit. And then my experience at Nordstrom, I thought was interesting too. So we could talk about that before the day's up, but let's talk about the Open. It's funny. NCFIT, shout out to nc.fit on Instagram. If you're not following that, make sure to follow that. They put up, or Liz put up a post from 13.5 and it was like a little story. And it was a good reminder for me of like some of my Open experiences. So I wanted to share, I could talk you through a bunch of them. So when it comes to Open announcements, for those of you who are unfamiliar, typically what they did for years, now they've kind of gotten away from it and back on it, is they do these announcements. And traditionally it was Dave Castro, and he would go out there and he would tell you the workout and then you'd go perform it right spot on. And those were probably some of the most stressful events I ever participated in. So I've done Open announcements, I've done sanctionals, regionals, games. I've competed for Team USA. I've ran the gamut in terms of competitions. I even did, for a while, they had these events called, what was it? The CrossFit Tour. I don't know if you remember that one, but the Open were the most stressful out of all of them because it was just you and another person. Or one year they had like a champions bracket, which was pretty interesting here in the Bay Area. But the one that I started with, and my first ever Open announcement, was at the Home Depot Center in 2000. I want to say like 11. It was early, and we went in the middle of the tennis stadium, and Dave made us wait until later on that night to tell us the event. He told us the event. We went and hit it. And from that day on, every year, I did an open announcement for years. The most stressful one was me and Rich Froning, and that's the one that she put up 13.5 or something like that, where every 4 minutes it started a new like AMRAP or something like that. And you know, if you didn't make the 4-minute cutoff, you didn't make it to the next one. So, oh man, I'm excited to see what comes out. I'm definitely not approaching it with the same type of like worry or stress that I used to. But it's exciting, man. They're announcing it here in a couple hours, and then I'm going to the gym, and I think I'm going to do it today. I think that's the plan.
Yeah, man. I mean, so many memories coming back from, you know, the obviously not at the same level as you of like, you know, going to the games or like doing an announcement in front of a bunch of people, you know, with Rich Froning. But I know that for a lot of people, you know, me included, when I remember the Open, it was like, it was such a big deal for us, right? Like it was your chance to like, you know, stack up at your gym or with all your favorite friends. Or for me, what it was, and this was a huge deal for me back in the day, was like, I was at a gym that was like always on the cusp of making regionals when regionals were a thing. And the Open was what was used to see who would go. And I was an athlete that like was right on the borderline because I was never strong, but I was always like a really good engine. So like I would have a couple workouts that would fall in my wheelhouse, but I would have a couple that like, you know, like Joe Schmo with like good dad strength in class could probably beat me in just because I wasn't strong enough. So it was a really fun, but really nerve-wracking time for me. And dude, I remember, like, I vividly remember, like, watching the Open announcement, like, hitting refresh on the page, like, literally, like, palms sweating, like, heart beating, like, ready to go into the group text and start, like, strategizing and watching videos. It's funny. It's funny to think back on it. And honestly, it's one of my fondest memories in CrossFit and, you know, back at the gym where I started. But yeah, it's also seems like a very distant memory now, given the fact that up until last night, I almost forgot that it was today. I knew that it was coming because we're recording some content and we're planning something from the marketing side, but we also have a bunch of other things going on. So literally last night with Ariel, we were like finding something to watch at night for like an hour before bedtime. And we actually put on the latest CrossFit documentary because we hadn't seen it yet. And it just seemed appropriate because we remembered that today the Open starts. Great, by the way. We only got halfway through it, but man, those documentaries are always so much fun. The last one is the Next Generation, I think it's called. The one that documents the 2021 games.
So I haven't.
It's always so fun to watch.
Yeah, is that so? I haven't seen that. That's. I might need to check that out. Yeah, you know, it's funny. I didn't forget that we were having the announcement today because you know it's obviously I'm in the gyms and but you know we haven't been pushing the Open that hard here at the gyms, and I think we're gonna have. I think we're going to have over 100 people participate in it, and we haven't even been pushing it really at all. So I'm curious if for next year, if we have more time to kind of like get around it and whatnot, how many people? I wouldn't be surprised if we get 200-300 people to do it next year from our location right here in the Bay Area, just because this year is kind of newer. We didn't want to be over the top about it. But it shows that people are interested, considering the fact that we're just like, hey guys, we're doing this thing on Friday. If you want to join, we're not saying, oh, you should do it. Next year, we could probably get more behind it. But, you know, seeing what the workout is, I think it's going to be pretty accessible from a gym owner perspective. I think 3 weeks is a great idea. And for me, I'm going to find out what the workout is. I'm probably going to do it today. The only reason why I would do it tomorrow, which actually I'm not, because I'm going running with Chris Hinshaw tomorrow. So no, I'm doing it today. I'm going to do the Open workout today, and I'm going to go post my score up immediately. I'm going to try and be the first person to post my score up.
Oh, dude, that was the other thing I remember from back in the day with the Open, you know, like trying to like not let people know your score. I remember at our gym, it got to the point where like, you know, people would come in during like off hours, like try and get the workout in. And then like, you know, it was kind of like this weird, because, you know, we were all friends and training partners, but there was this like competition going on within the gym because, you know, stakes were high about, you know, who was going to be on the team. And there was definitely this like, you know, people would wait until the last minute on Monday. Like, are you doing it again? Are you not doing it again? Someone did it again and beat your first score, so now you have to do it again on Monday. It was fun, man. Stressful, but like super fun. Like I'm smiling ear to ear, people that can't see the videos. And if anyone from CrossFit Garden City is listening, you know, I'm sure they have the same fond memories. But man, it was a wild 5 weekends. There was like so
Dude.
much going on the text threads, and like, what did Timmy get? What did Chris get? Man, so much fun.
Yeah, for us, it was a little bit different. Like at NorCal for a while, it was like we all knew we were gonna qualify.
Right.
And for me, it was always about I'm gonna do the workout, I'm gonna do it once, I'm gonna update my score immediately. I'm not gonna think about it again. That was my take, because at the time, I was relatively proficient, meaning like I didn't have to worry about qualifying for the next round. And so it was really about how quickly can I get this out of the way as a formality so I could get back to my training to help me win the ultimate goal, which is the CrossFit Games. That was always like kind of our overall take, just because we were so, our goal was not the Open. Our goal was not regionals. Our goal was the games. So
Sure.
every week we would look at it through that lens, right? We would look at it like, because what happened the first year the Open came around is we allowed it to impact our training too much. So we ended up doing it 2 or 3 times because we looked at it as a competition to see how we stacked up against Dan Bailey, who I think that year won the Open. Instead, as the years went on, I think all the competitors realized tailoring your training towards the Open and doing it 2 or 3 times wasn't our goal. For some people, it is their goal and they should go out there and do it. But if it's not your goal and your goal is the next level or the next level, all you should do is just get out of the way and move on. So we'll see what happens within our gym. I don't know. I'm excited. I hope it's not too heavy. It's funny, back when I was like really in shape, I'd want it to be heavier because I'd perform better. Now my stamina isn't as good at moderate or heavy loads. So I hope it's a little bit lighter so I could kind of, beat Zach, who's one of our coaches, who's really trying to qualify. So I hope I could beat him.
In every single year of the Open, I always get one workout, just law of averages, that like just falls into my wheelhouse. And if I get something that falls into my wheelhouse, I can put something up that people will be like, what? This guy's still pretty fit. So yeah, give me like double unders, muscle ups, toes to bar, and like a moderately light deadlift or like power snatch, and I'll give it a good run. Don't make me squat or get into a front rack position. I won't do it.
So it's interesting. I actually text Savon this. I'm like, who is the CrossFit villain? And I don't know if you've seen the recent beef between Gordon Ryan and Nicky Rod.
I have.
But it's like popcorn good. I mean, it is so good. Gordon Ryan is without debate the number 1 grappler in the world right now. Nicky Rod, I think, is definitely up there, along with our friend Mason Fowler and others. And basically, like, they just have some shit talking that's going on, which they hadn't talked crap about each other for years, and now they are. And it's all about like steroids and a few other things. But the reason why I bring that up is I think Gordon is bringing a lot of new eyes to the sport of jiu-jitsu because of the way he is online. He's very good at trolling, and like he skirts this line really well between like people want to watch him fight. Some people want to watch him lose. Other people want to watch him win. And I was texting Savon saying, who in CrossFit is that guy right now? And I think that when I look back on the Open and regionals and whatever, Dave Castro used to play that role pretty well, especially in the Open, where he would kind of be the villain a little bit, like, what's the workout going to be, whatnot. And I'm wondering who's going to fill that void, if there's going to be that void at all. Because like, I can't think of an athlete right now who kind of fills that void like they have in grappling. So it was just something that was on my mind. And Dave used to play that role perfectly, but now it's, he's moved on. So it's all good.
Yeah, I think Ricky Gerard had the opportunity to be that, coming back from a, 2-3 year suspension with PEDs. If he would have really embraced that. The problem though is that, if he embraced that and then came in and didn't win because he fell short both at the games when he came back and at the Rogue Invitational, then that's the problem with being the villain. You have to be the villain, but have the chops to back it up. That's why Gordon Ryan is so good, because he can say whatever the hell he wants until you beat him. Like, what are you going to say?
Dude, for sure. It's definitely that situation. So, but I'm interested to see how the CrossFit Games season shakes out. And I'm also interested to see how to take it from, the X amount of people that are doing it to the next level in terms of people that are aware of CrossFit and the growth of the sport, the growth of the brand. I think that CrossFit's at an inflection point, and we're going to see if it's going to make it to the next stage? I think it will, but it needs to adjust a few things. One of those things is, I think, like you and I talked to Dawn about, is just storytelling and getting people engaged on the athletes so that people want to watch their journey. And the more of that, the better. I think Mayhem put out a new video that I think is in alignment with that. People can watch it and feel more connected to the team.
Yeah. Thinking about the Open, and I'm trying to like formulate this into a question, but let me just give you my thoughts and then maybe a question will come out of it.
Okay.
I think the Open's an interesting time for gym owners specifically, right? Because on the one hand, and we've all experienced this, there's just that magic to getting everyone together to cheer for people, to kind of go outside your comfort zone and really push like above and beyond and probably do something you didn't think you could do, like that intangible, like, people leave an Open workout and they feel accomplished. It's really cool. It's cool to see people that, for whatever reason, whether it's their age or the stage of life, their life, they're not going to accomplish something athletic where they get a bunch of kudos and whatever anymore, but they can do that in a CrossFit gym and they can do that through the Open. So on the one side, that's super positive. On the other side, I think that if you walk into a gym during a Friday Night Lights or a Friday of the Open, and you're someone that, was teetering on this line of this might be for me, this isn't for me. And then you see people like yelling in someone's face and someone's judging you and there's a score and there's a leaderboard.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I can see a lot of people like 180 and I'm going right back to, whatever that doesn't seem as intimidating. And I know it's only one workout a week for 3 weeks, but I think that, it still begs the question of, is that what we want to be representative of what we're doing inside the four walls of a CrossFit gym? And is that benefiting getting more people to come in and try what we're doing? Or is it just like a really cool community building moment for the people that are already bought in, but it's excluding making that pie even bigger?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good question. I think ultimately the Open is a good thing for CrossFit. I think that it drives more camaraderie and community than it detracts personally. And I think that a lot of that is just the messaging of the owner. When someone walks in, being able to say like, hey, what's going on right now is one expression of what we're doing. It's like talking about the CrossFit Games, same idea. One thing, if you think about like High Rocks or something like that, like let's just take High Rocks as an example. One thing to think about for the future of the Open is, does it turn into like these regional style events that like they drive? So like, again, this is totally first thought that comes to mind. When you think about like an Orange Theory, F45 or High Rocks training, a lot of people are using CrossFit, different modalities to train for this particular event. The High Rocks is 8 different stations. It's like a 1K run plus another thing, 1K run, another thing, etc. But when people show up at that thing, they know that it's a competition, which is different from what's happening inside the gym. I think where the Open becomes a little unique is that you're having a competition inside of a traditional gym that you would normally go to for class. So maybe what the future holds, and I don't know if this is necessarily the best idea, but a idea would be, instead of like this idea of regionals or whatnot, I wonder if you could just have like sanctioned CrossFit events throughout the country where people can go and compete in like, I mean, they already have that, but I wonder if you could do it where it's open to any class. And now when people go there, they're doing the Open at like these sanctioned locations versus in their gym. I don't necessarily think that's the best idea. It's just something that's on my mind, because how do other people do it, right? They know that they can go into these other camps and work out. And then if they choose to compete in something, they have opportunities at a specific location at a specific time, where the Open is within their gym. It's kind of more forced upon them. But I think that it also makes it more inclusive and more fun. So I don't know where I'm going with it, but I think as a gym owner, it's all about communication. That's the number one.
Yeah, communication. I think also like being aware that the videos and the pictures that you might capture during those events like serve a specific purpose, but it's not what you should lead with in your, marketing testimonial content, because it does portray a very specific image that's going to be appealing to a very specific person that might be who you want to come to your gym, but it also might not be, or it might exclude the people that you need to kind of build the membership base that you need to be successful as a business. So I think just being aware of that is important, being aware of the purpose that these next 3 weeks serve. And And the fact that, if you do have someone that's like, hey, I'm interested, would like to try a class, maybe not having them their first class be a Friday might be a good idea, right? Like have them come in a different day or get in front of it, right? Like be like, hey, if you do want to come on Friday and check this out, but here's what it is. Here's, it's just a one time a year thing. Here's why we do it. Here's why people enjoy it so much. If you want to go that route. But I think the best option might be to, you might not want that to be the first impression that people get for some people. For some people, they would see that and be like, sign me up. But I think that's the exception, not the
well, it depends on the demographic you're trying to service. Yesterday I was having a conversation with Jim, and I think this is relevant. And I looked up his pricing. So he sent me, his intention is to get all of his members to pay the same price for their service. That's his goal. And he sent me over the communications in and sent out, and I had some feedback on it that I thought was, particularly interesting. But when I looked at his pricing models, he had so many memberships. Gabe, he had at least 15 memberships, at least, because he had month to month, he had 12 times a month, he had 8 times a month, he had open gym, he had kids 4 times a month. Like there was just a variety of different pricing models. And in particular, we started talking about open gym, and he sells an open gym membership for a specific amount versus the classes, which is a little bit more. And it started to, I just asked him the question, like when you go out there and you're marketing and you're, trying to, grow your business, are you trying to attract people for group classes or trying to attract them for open gym? What is your marketing material aligned with? And it just was an interesting question. I'm curious your take on it too, is like, I asked him, does it make sense to have an open gym membership and a class membership? And I think there's value in having a conversation, but like, if you look at like Barbell Brigade, they do just an open gym membership and that's what they promote. It's like, hey, come on in, you get the world-class equipment, you get CrossFit style equipment, whatever, come on in, pay $50 a month, boom. But his open gym was pretty expensive. It was $180 and the regular classes was like $215. And it opened my eyes, this idea of like, if you're not going to go out there and promote open gym as like your lead horse, should you even offer it? Because what are you trying to go out there and attract? People want classes or people want open gym, but you can't do both. What do you think about that? Curious.
Yeah, I mean, we've learned this the hard way in some respects, but it's easy to fall into the trap of like, you want to offer more options, right? Like you start by doing one thing and then someone comes along and they're like, man, it would be really beneficial if you offered this. So in your example, you start offering group class because that's great. People get programming, they get coaching, so on and so forth. But someone comes and they're like, hey, I'd love to join your gym because I love your facility, but I don't really want to take group class. I'd love if you had open gym. So now you make an offering for that person. And then someone else comes and they're like, hey, I love what you do here, but I have a teen. I'd love if you offer that. And then you offer something for that person. And
or I can only come in 5 times a month. Do you have a membership for that?
Right, exactly. And then it's this slippery slope of like, you always want to close that person. So you amorphize your business to become this thing that can service everyone. But then the problem becomes that, like, to your point, what are you marketing at that point, right? Like, you can't talk about all those offerings. So it becomes difficult to attract people. And then, you have people that are doing all these different things. I think the better way to look at it is, what problem are you trying to solve? What's the best solution for it? And if you believe that the best solution for helping people reach their goals is coming in and having a coach run them through the programming that, whatever programming service or in-house that you think is best for your community, then that's what you should focus on. And that doesn't mean that there isn't a place to have like 1 or 2 or 3 options, but you definitely have to catch yourself once you start just adding things for the sake of servicing that other person or those other 2 people, because you're going to dilute what it is that you talk about, what it is that you market, and what it is that you even want to become better at. Because then, if you have a teens program, a rowing program, an endurance program, and a CrossFit program, what are you constantly trying to become better at? All of them? Because then that gets tough, right?
Dude, I think that if I had learned that lesson earlier on, it would have saved our company a lot of time, effort, and money. We offered spin for a while. We offered yoga. We've offered everything under the sun. That years ago, this is going to sound funny. Years ago, we actually used to have like once a month, we had LARPing at the gym. like, is that what it's called? Where like people like dress up in medieval gear? Is that what it is?
Dude, I
You
have
know,
no idea what you're talking about.
I'm anyways, we used to have, like, I'm telling you, at this one location, we had everything under the sun.
Wait, time out.
Dude,
There was an NCFIT location where people came in medieval costumes.
dude, they came in, dude. So, 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 so this is years ago. You know, we had a lot of space at our Saratoga Avenue location. We had indoor diving, we had judo, we had, you name it, right? And the oddest thing we ever had, I remember showing up on a Saturday morning, and these guys had asked me if they could use the space for it. You might need my keyboard's not working, but I'm 99% sure it's called LARPing. Can you just Google it real quick to make sure it's LARPing before I butcher the shit out of what I'm about to say right now?
Yes. So it
Okay.
is LARPing, and it stands for live action role playing.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. So
Yes, live action role playing is a character driven type of gameplay that is conducted in the physical world.
dude, so I show up one morning, and these guys had asked
man.
me, hey, can we come and utilize the space? And at the time, like I said, we had a lot of space, and it was fitness-ish related. So I'm like, all right, cool. They ended up doing it.
Fitness-ish related.
Dude, so I show up there, and I just hear like this, like bang, bang, bang. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So I go to the back of the gym, and these dudes are using real swords, real axes, real everything. I don't think the blades were super, super sharp on them, but they were real. They weren't fake. And they had metal gear on, and like that old medieval, like, you know, like where they would drape themselves like in metal, like that chain type.
Chainmail. Yeah.
Exactly. Dude. And I swear, man, these guys were nailing each other. And anyways, I don't know how we're going off on that topic, but the point being is that if you're trying to, you know, go down all these different paths, it just detracts you from your overall vision of offering really great CrossFit classes. So no more LARPing. We did that for a little bit, and then we stopped that.
Yeah, man, it's funny, but it's also, you know, the realistic side of it is, I know there's a lot of gym owners out there that, you know, just trying to bring revenue in. Like, you're not in a position to say no necessarily, or that would be the argument, right? The argument would be, hey, like, someone's offering to pay real money for an open gym class, for a 3 times a week class. You know, the LARPing is like a funny extreme example, but it just goes to say that, like, if you did have, you know, you bit off more than you could chew, you have a huge space, and you have these people that want to use that space for something during your off hours, I can see the temptation to do it. But I think that, to your point, it's not the soundest way to bring that revenue in, because it just detracts from the thing that should be providing the value, which is whatever you choose to focus on.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, by the way, for any gym owner who's looking, the reason why I brought this up is because we were discussing, you know, we were originally discussing raising rates to an average price, because in particular, one of the gyms I was talking to, you know, they have quite a few members, but their revenue just isn't allowing them to become, you know, at the state they want to get to. And they need to raise everybody's rates up, you know, for a variety of reasons. And if you are interested in doing that, you know, just let us know. I think there's some language. We did it a little bit ago. I can't remember if we did a full podcast on it, Gabe, but there was definitely some lessons learned in regards to bringing everybody up to the same price. One of the things I would avoid, though, is like in an email format telling members like how much you guys are struggling. I think that they have no, like, if you tell them, hey, we're doing this because all these things are so tough for on our business, it's like, if I'm a member, I'm like, dude, that's not my responsibility. Like, my responsibility is to, I guess, just word it in such a way where it's aspirational. We want to move towards the future, and not, oh, this had to change. This had to change. We had to go pay these people more money. We had to do this. We had to do that. I think it's more about just like, hey, we've made a ton of investments in the location. We want to be here for the next decade plus. We need to do this to remain sustainable. And anyways, there's a lot more to that. If you're interested in talking more about it, just email us at collective@nc.fit.
The one piece of advice that I read recently about just making changes in general, I think this falls in that bucket, and I really like it, is cut once and cut deep. And the meaning behind that being, like, you know, what you don't want to do is like, well, you know, this is the rate that I believe everyone should be on. based on like the value that we're providing, and then like try and like have steps to get there, right? Like once you identify the things that need to change in your business for it to be successful, and that might be some difficult decisions like raising your rates, eliminating some classes when, you know, people aren't coming in, eliminating a program. Like if you're listening to this and you're like, man, you know, I offer this endurance class that, you know, is draining responsibilities and I'm just servicing these 3 people that asked for it. The recommendation, the thinking behind this, which I do agree with, is
Cut
like
once and cut
all
deep.
the changes at once. Cut once and cut deep. We're getting rid of the endurance class. The rates are going up to X, and we're getting rid of, you know, the 6 a.m. class that no one comes to. Like figure out everything that needs to change it, and move on. Because you have to take that opportunity to say, hey, you know, I've been doing a lot of thinking. Like you said, this business, for it to be here for years to come, here are the things that need to change. And that might be tough, but you're having everything in one tough conversation. I can see why it's tempting to like, we're changing a lot, so let me do one thing. But I think that there really is some value to, if you acknowledge that, like, hey, these 5 things need to happen for me to turn the business around. Like, do them all at once. Cut once, cut deep, move on, don't look back.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good, I mean, shit, that's a piece of advice I would tell myself. It's just easier said than done. It's like the whole idea of like hire slow, fire fast. It's like, dude, that sounds good on paper, but when you're actually trying to put in a practical application, it's a little bit tougher than it sounds. But I agree with you in general, where I think as a, like, let's just take, for example, with us, I mean, us converting 2 programs into one is cut once and cut deep. We just did it. I think that took us a long time to get to that decision-making process. We could have done it earlier, right? Or even reaffiliation. There's a bunch of stuff that I think we could have done earlier, but once we do it, I think we just got to rock and roll with it. And I think that obviously I still think that's something that we need to work on here at our gyms, but I would agree with you completely that, you know, if you're going to do it, just do it once, rip the Band-Aid off and make it happen. I think that that's something I've struggled with personally, but it's good advice, because otherwise it just keeps belaboring the fact. Like if you're like your point, if you want to get rid of, if you know you have to get rid of 3 classes a week, but you get rid of one, then you get rid of another, then you get rid of another. It just kind of is tougher than just letting it all ride at the same time and letting it go, if you know that's the right decision for your business.
Yeah, and then also like it really allows you to like move forward with a clean slate per se, of like, you know, the people that are still riding with you are still riding with you, you know, and now you can build knowing that you're on the foundation of the business set up the way it needs to be set up for it to be successful. Like,
Yeah.
are you going to lose some people? Sure. But like, you need to understand that that's going to happen regardless. And it's better to know, hey, this is where we're at. Like this core group that is still with us, despite all these changes, like wants to be here for the future. And then you can move forward. And that both is on a member side and like a staff side too, right? Like there's some people that might not want to be around if these things change. And while that might be difficult, it'll be okay. And it's better to like figure that out sooner rather than later than have someone dragging their feet and continue to be a part of the business, even though they might disagree with where it's going, causing resentment and a bunch of issues that you could have, you know, taken care of if you changed everything at once and were just very clear about, here's what we're doing, here's why we're doing it. You're either on board or you're not.
Yeah. And like I said, I easier said than done, but I agree with you. I mean, one thing in particular, like when we raised rates, it was not easy. I mean, dude, I was on text messages and phone calls with members, and I got a lot of that heat because, you know, I was a guy 15 years ago who was telling people their rate was what their rate was. And I had to go ahead and say, look, I didn't know at the time that, you know, paying $100 a month for 15 years eventually would get us to the point where you're having packed classes and you can't create the profitability you need to pay our coaches well. And I guess what I'm trying to say though, is that what it did without by design was it did get us a group of people who are really aligned with where we wanted to go. And it didn't just have people in the gym who were just hanging on because they had a cheap membership. They were hanging on because they really were about where we wanted to go in the future. And that was a byproduct that I wasn't aware of that I think was good for the overall culture inside the gym, for sure, as one example. So if you're thinking about raising your rates, that was one byproduct that I wasn't aware of that I think has been good for our business.
For sure.
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to tell you about, you know, what's interesting. So I show up to Nordstrom's. Okay. I got a vent about this. And this guy there, he was the best. He was the best personal shopper guy I've ever met in my entire life. Dude, his name was David. See, I even remember his name. He was engaging. He was salesy without being salesy. He was selling without being salesy. He even gave me a hug, which was really interesting. But
That is interesting because you're not a big hugger.
Not really. And it made me feel a little uncomfortable, but like he pulled it off. He pulled it off. Like, so I walk in there, I'm like, hey, my wife is hosting a big event, this in 2 weeks, and she wants me to wear a tux, and I don't have a tux. I only have suits. And he goes, okay, let me help you out, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, he could tell I was really apprehensive and I was uncomfortable. Like, dude, I'm just like wearing gym shorts and a t-shirt. I did not want to be there. And so he's like, you know what you need? He's like, you need a hug. And he's like, we're going to make your wife happy. And so he gives me a hug. And so we're talking. So he shows me this Hugo Boss, another brand, Armani or something, and then another brand or whatever. And so we're trying on these tuxes and they aren't working. And so we finished.
I was going to say, there's no way there's tuxes built for your dimensions.
No.
Like
and
out
so
of the box.
We finish, and I was expecting to be like, oh, you know what we could do? We could take this pant and this shirt. We could do this. We could do that. We need to tailor it, blah, blah. And he's just like, look, man, I'm going to be honest with you. We don't have anything here that's going to fit your thighs. And he's like, we just don't have anything to accommodate you. And I just was sitting there and I thought to myself, like, I'm in pretty good shape. Like, I was a 42 jacket, 34 waist, and a 24-inch thigh or something, like whatever he quoted me. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, I don't feel like I should be so far outside the norm that no tux in that whole place even was close to fitting me. It was just a good example of how like body types have adjusted. I know that I'm not like the typical body type. I get it.
Far from it.
But the fact that like a physique like mine can't even have anything available because we've all gone towards another type of physique. It was just eye-opening. That's all. But the guy was super kind. It was a great experience at Nordstrom. I'm not hating on Nordstrom. I thought they did a great job. But the fact that I had to walk in there and leave basically with no option, I ended up finding another option at another place, which they had to fully basically build out this tux. But it was just like sad that I left there being like, damn, dude, like they don't have anything for a body type. Like, what body type are they tailoring to,
Yeah, man. I mean, it's a couple takeaways from that story. One, I wish I could have been a fly on the wall when this hug happened. I would pay really good money to see your face when this guy was like, you needed a hug and gave you a hug. That's the first takeaway.
Dude, he pulled it off though.
He pulled it out. I mean, I get it, man. Like I have an issue with, well, pants are also an issue. I've had to have every pair of dress pants I've ever gotten tailored, but like shirts, like the neck size that I need is like a huge shirt, and like I have short arms, so like that never matches up. It's a nightmare. Like buying clothes like that is a pain in the butt. I recently, when we went to that wedding in Miami, the dress code was black tie, so I was supposed to wear a tux. But I ended up just wearing my suit because I couldn't like go through the process of like trying to get it. I knew a tux like was going to be a nightmare. But yeah, to your point, it's a shame, but also it makes perfect sense because unfortunately, like we are the exception, not just even you and me, probably a lot of people listening here, ladies included. Like Ariel has a really hard time finding dresses and stuff because, she's got muscles, which is like, God forbid, like a woman has some muscle on her, things just aren't meant to fit that in a way that not only fits, but, is flattering in a specific way. So it's a pain in the butt. And it is unfortunate that there aren't more options out there, but I get it because there's just like percentage wise, we're not a huge population, unfortunately, even though a lot of the listeners to this podcast are probably like sitting there like, yeah, like I've had the same issue too.
Yeah, it sucks because I had a custom suit built when my sister was married, and it was like 100% custom from scratch. And I ended up leaving the jacket at a hotel, and I couldn't get it back. So now I have these custom pants that are badass. I even have a vest that's custom with it, but I don't have the jacket. So I had to go out there. I ended up going to this place, and the women were super sweet there, and they ended up being able to tailor it for me. So hopefully Ashley likes it. Her events on Saturday. I just want to make sure I live up to her expectations. If I had it my way, I'd be wearing jeans and a dress shirt, but I want to make sure I look right for her.
Every now and then I really, really enjoy getting like super dressed up. Like there's something about it that's really fun. Like this wedding in Miami, it was fun to like put on like a really nice black suit and like, you know, have cufflinks and stuff. It's just a pain in the butt because nothing ever fits and you have to get stuff that's expensive and custom made. But I enjoy it every now and then.
Dude, you and me both. So every now and then for me. But yeah, other than that, I got Hinshaw in town. Him and I had a great conversation yesterday. We're going to be going to the track.
Before we move on though, the other thing, before I forget, the
Nordstrom?
takeaway from that, because I watched the video on this just the other day, and it's so true. So like when you think about sales, you know, sales is so much about trust.
This guy was good, by the way.
Oh, I mean, it goes without saying that if you feel you're not being sold to and you're just comfortable, you're going to do a lot better. Sales is so much about trust. And the fact that he was able to say, hey, you know, we don't have anything for you here, period. Even though that meant he wasn't making the sale, the honesty that goes behind that, you know, I don't think just because I know you, you're not going to be like a Nordstrom regular shopper now, but now you might recommend it to other people. Or if you ever have a need that you know Nordstrom has, like you might go back there. And I think that that's really important. You know, it's an important takeaway that gym owners can probably take. And it goes back to the conversation we were having before about, you know, not offering everything under the sun just because, you know, that might get you a person. If someone comes in and they're like, hey, like, this might not be the best example, but I really want to take Zumba. Do you guys offer Zumba? Obviously, you're not going to like spin up a Zumba class, but if you tell them, hey, we don't have anything for you, here's, and give them a good recommendation, they're more likely to come back, to recommend someone to you, to, you know, now they have a positive view because you were able to help them, even though the actual solution to their problem wasn't something that your business offered. And the specific video that I saw was talking about, you know, closing supplement sales as part of like a sales process at a gym. So whether you do this at the gym or not, where you actually sit people down and you're like, you know, selling them on like a fitness program, nutrition program, and trying to upsell them on supplements, there's a good takeaway here. And what the video said was that he started selling significantly more supplements when he always led with, hey, so these three things, like you can probably get cheaper version at Costco. You don't have to get them here. But these two things you should definitely get from us because they're whatever, higher quality or whatever. And he got to the point, he learned that by accident because one day he didn't have that one in stock. So he was just saying, you know, you can get it a little bit cheaper by getting it in Costco. And he realized that that got him the trust to where that person then purchased everything else that he offered. So moving forward, he had three things that he didn't even keep on the shelf. He just had them, but he always said, hey, you know, these three things, like you can save some money, don't buy it from us, buy it from Costco, but these things you definitely want to get. And now most of the time they would convert on the other things because you immediately get the trust.
You built their trust right there.
Right, by pointing people in the other direction to save them a couple bucks, or just because you're doing the right thing and not selling them on something. So I thought that all, the Nordstrom story reminded me of that. And I think, you know, whether you do that type of supplement sales or not, there's just something to be said about always giving people the best solution you can give them, even that if that means them not necessarily buying from you, because the value of the trust you gain from that is immense. And it might not have a return that second, but it will always have a return eventually if you're always kind of, you know, approaching it that way.
Dude, that's super interesting. So first off, I think that supplement thing is a great idea because it does build trust. But let's talk about the Nordstrom real quick. So this guy, right? He has on his phone a QR code or something or whatever, right? So I took a photo. He goes, listen, we don't have anything here for you, but I'm gonna talk to some friends and see if I can find you something. So go ahead and use your QR code. Just shoot me a text message. So I sent him a text message. He texts me back. He goes, it was so great seeing you at the store. He goes, let me talk to some friends and see if I can find you anything else. So now this guy has my contact information and he makes me feel like he earned my trust by saying, we don't have what you want. He lost out on a sale right then, but now he has his contact information. And then he followed up a couple of days later, said, hey, did you end up finding anything? And so now maybe he'll reach out to me a month, 2 months, 3 months later. He's like, hey, just letting you know, we have a whatever going on. And I'm already going to feel like a moderate amount of like, I should probably give this guy, you know, I should probably go see him because he really tried to care for me. Anyways, I guess you're hitting the nail on the head, right? By him, because he earned my trust because he didn't make me feel like he was trying to sell me something. Because at that very moment where he had an opportunity to, he didn't take it,
What's his
which
name? We
now
need a
I care
name.
for more. What?
We need a name. We got to give this guy a name. What's his name?
His name was David.
David from Nordstrom. We need to have David from Nordstrom on the podcast.
Dude,
I feel like that would be a fantastic segment to just get him in here talking about selling tuxedos at Nordstrom.
Dude, you know, we should get David. We should get David on. No, seriously, because, and by the way, we're gonna have Kelly Starrett on and Juliet. Patrick Umel will be coming on. You're gonna love talking to him. He's coming on the show, and we'll have some more. But David from Nordstrom's would be a really interesting person because think about that, man. It's the art of selling, but he's playing the long game, which I think is really, really cool. And now he has my contact information, so we'll see what happens.
Oh man, that's fantastic. We need updates on David from Nordstrom.
Dude.
But anyway, I was cutting you off before. You were talking about Chris Hinshaw. He's in town.
Oh yeah, he's in town. His son got married today. And so on Friday, we're going to go to the track. So going to go, learn from him, be sharing some of that content on social media if you guys don't see it. And then him and I are talking about, we happen to both be going to Europe at the same time. So we're discussing doing some events in Europe together, like these 2-hour, kind of masterclass on breathing, pacing, mindset, fitness. I don't know. We're programming. We're trying to figure out. So it's just something that he was at the gym yesterday and we were talking about it. He's like, hey, you're going to be in Europe. I'm going to be in Europe. We should maybe do some 2-hour classes for people. So stay tuned for that if you're in Europe and listening to this.
The Euro Tour. I love it. Let me ask you a question. When you were training running with Hinshaw and all that content was coming out, you and Garrett getting, one of the videos that I saw of you actually, I used to do that workout all the time, the 10-800s.
Yeah.
I remember watching a video of you doing that. And I next day went to the track and did it. And it was great.
Were you able to do 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off?
Yeah. Yeah. But I was a runner. You're Jason Khalipa. It's much more impressive you doing it than me doing it.
Yeah. It was a 1-to-1 work to rest ratio. And the goal was 3 minutes on. So a 3-minute 800, which is, at 1 or 2 isn't that bad. But when you start doing, I think we did 10 of them, right? Or 8 of them? 10.
10.
When you start getting to around 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it's tough because it just compounds. So the workout would be 1-to-1 work to rest ratio, run on track 800 meters. Let's just say it takes you 4 minutes and you rest 4 minutes. But our target goal was 3 minute each round. And I was finishing, Gabe, I'm telling you, man, I had a watch and 259, 258. 259.3333. Right on the nose, as close as I can get to 3 minutes as I could to try and give myself as much rest as possible.
Man, I've done my fair share of track workouts, running cross country in college, triathlons after that, and even just enjoying to continue to do track stuff even once I got into CrossFit. And I always really enjoyed it. I know some people really like to go out on runs where the scenery is changing. But for me, maybe it's the fact that I grew up swimming, and in swimming, you're in a pool going back and forth, endless laps. There was something about the track that I really, really enjoyed. I enjoyed the repetition, the being able to know your pace every single lap and know where you're going. Know if you have to speed up a little bit or bring it down. There was even something I remember about if there was a strong wind, there was even something psychological about get past the headwind and then really take advantage of the tailwind. Get past the headwind, really take advantage of the tailwind. And just the mind games you can play while okay, I have 4 laps left, 3 laps left. Really, really enjoyed that.
Me too. Chris taught me a lot about that on the track. You're wearing a watch and you have specific, cadence. Let's just say it's, 30-second, 100 meters, and you're trying to hit your time domains, right? Because I would put you at a 2-minute 400, and you really start breaking it down, and you could then start almost gamifying it to see, can you approach this? I think that was what's fun about the track. One of the big things I'm excited to work with Chris tomorrow is just this idea too. One of the first things he taught me is when you're in lane 1, it's all business. I always love that mindset because basically, you're in lane 10, 8, 7, 6, kind of walking, jogging, getting ready for your workout. And then once you hit lane 1, it's game on. It was just a good metaphor for kind of taking your body from a state of preparedness to now I'm executing. And for some people, like with Noah Olson, it's wearing flip-flops and then switching into shoes when they get into the gym. That mentally tells them. But for me, it was as soon as I entered lane 1, I knew the game was on and it was time to switch my mindset. So that was a big takeaway that he taught me on the track that I didn't necessarily get on the road.
It's such an important point, man. Like focus during your training, I think is something that people underestimate. And I think that it's one of the cool things about CrossFit because 3, 2, 1, go, you can't really grab your phone between sets, like check Slack, check your email, so on and so forth. And it's been tough for me as I've shifted to more like bodybuilding type training because there is a lot of rest and you're doing a lot of stuff where like, it's super tempting to check your phone, check a Slack, shoot out a message real quick, text message comes in. But the focus, I think, is equally as important as the effort you're putting into the movements. And that's something that I've really been focusing on lately is when I'm there, when I'm at the gym, like I'm at the gym, right? And even though there's rest periods, I should be thinking about the next set during my rest, and it should actually be resting. And also it's really interesting because there's even like very strong science to back up like the mind-body connection of like, you thinking about and staying engaged, like does help you recruit more muscle fibers and therefore help with hypertrophy and help you get some more reps, as opposed to like, you hit your set and then, all right, well, I got 90 seconds, how much scrolling can I get done on Instagram? So that's what I loved about running. And I think it's also a benefit of CrossFit is because there are no distractions when you're on the track, when you're doing laps. Like you're thinking about your breathing, your cadence, the pace, what kind of wind.
Yeah.
That's it. You're there, you're present. There's nothing else. And I think that that's cool. And it's really beneficial for a lot of reasons.
Yeah. Well, stay tuned on the NCFIT channel and my channel for kind of some stuff we're going to be doing with Hinshaw to, not even the European things, just some like running, advice and tips and things that he's done with me. I think it's long overdue to get back on the track with him. So I'm excited about that. And then I'll be sharing in the next couple of weeks some of the things that we're doing with CBP, Customs and Border Protection. I'm working with a couple of guys to create just some cool tests to work with them. One of the ones that came up with was a 300-meter shuttle. And I'm curious what my time is on a 300-meter shuttle, 25 out and back 6 times. I'll share that with you guys on the podcast and see if anybody wants to give it a shot. So some cool stuff happening with CBP, some cool stuff happening in the gym, and some cool stuff happening with Chris Hinshaw. So make sure you guys stay tuned on our social channels, on our emails. If you're not getting Gabe's weekly EOE email or the bi-weekly gym owner email, you're seriously missing out. If you're not on either of those, make sure you check out the podcast show notes for links on both of those, because I think they have a lot of value. And I think they could definitely help out.
Appreciate that. Cool, man.
Hey, so takeaways for me. The Open's here today. I'm going to go have some fun with that. Business side, focus, cut once, cut deep, and stay tuned for some Hinshaw. And hope everybody has a great week. We're going to be having
David from Nordstrom.
Oh, David from Nordstrom's. In all seriousness, if we get David from Nordstrom's on the podcast, I think he would actually be really entertaining. So let me message him. But hope everybody has a good week. We'll be having some guests on the show. I think it's gonna, it's just gonna be really good. And yeah, I hope everybody has a kick-ass week. Let's go.